you'll enjoy meeting our guest, Frank Islam, today. He has grown his company 55,000% since 1994. He has a total of 1,400 employees and revenues of $225 million. Largest one-person-owned company in the United States. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. I really appreciated you inviting me to talk to you. Thank you very, very much.
This is a huge, successful story. So take me back to 1994. Why did you leave your job and go into business for yourself?
In 1994, I bought QSS for a very small amount of money. At that time, the company was an 8A. I worked for the Hughes Aircraft, and I was a program manager for one of the Navy research jobs, as well as for the FAA, as well as for the NASA. And I decided to take the risk. And I believe taking the risk and making it happen on your own is a very, very important part of my upbringing and life. And I have seen many, many, many Indian community who have done it extremely well in this kind of business. So I felt very strongly that it's time for me to embark on the journey, and hopefully the journey will be successful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, let's get to know QSS. Exactly what business is QSS in?
QSS is a support services organization in information technology, and also we do the aerospace engineering to the federal government. Our customers include NASA, Department of Commerce, Department of Energy, and also the Department of Defense, and some intelligence agency as well, which is very much classified, so I don't really want to talk too much about that. And we are located in about 14 states in the United States. As a matter of fact, we have people also, some part in Germany and Moscow and Japan as well. And QSS is really into the quality system too. So we have CMM level 2, which is the CMI process that we have as well in ISO 9000.
You build any software?
We build the software to fly the spacecraft for NASA, the command and control and communication, communicating to the satellite, as well as to the space shuttle program, and also do the software for the Department of Defense.
NASA had a great big tragedy. Did you have any people working there?
Yes, we have close to about 800 people working for NASA.
Wow.
Darshas Space Flight Center, which is not too far from Washington, D.C., we have close to 400 employees. And we also have employees at NASA Glenn, which is in Ohio. And also we have employees at Jet Propulsion Lab, which is in Pasadena, California. And also NASA Ames, which does a high technology research in IT, because they are the center of excellence for NASA in San Jose, California.
Where were you when you first got the news? How did you handle your employees with that kind of grief for them?
This is the most tragic event that I have ever experienced in my life. I do remember many, many years ago when I was working for Computer Sciences Corporation when the Challenger disaster occurred. It was absolutely devastating. At that time, I was very young. Now that I own a company and that does a business with NASA, I would hope that the life of the astronaut, the people who died, they did not sacrifice, they did not risk their life in vain. I would hope their journey of the space program will continue. As a matter of fact, Saturday morning, I was getting ready to go to the work, as a matter of fact, to my office, and when I learned that they have lost communication with the Columbia shuttle, and then I went back. I did not go back to work on Saturday. I called my program manager, and also offered my condolences to NASA. I came back on Sunday. I wrote a letter to all my employees and to all my customers expressing the condolences, deep sympathy to members of the crew, and I hope it will continue with the space exploration program. I love to touch the stars and the unknown.
Let's get to know Frank Islam.
Well, that's
Frank,
right.
where are you from, and how did you get to Washington, D.C.?
Well, it has been a long journey, and I believe it has been a remarkable journey. I was born in India, in Aligarh, UP, and I came here when I was very young and went to the University of Colorado in Boulder as an undergraduate student as well as a graduate student. And I came here to the Washington area back in late 70s and to work for a company called Computer Sciences Corporation. That was my first job. And my wife, Debbie, came with me at that time. And my first job, and you may be able to relate to that, the TDRSS, which is the satellite that communicates with the space shuttle program, And I work in orbit and attitude determination for Goddard Space Flight Center as a contractor working for CSC. And from there, I went to work for Hughes Aircraft, and in 1994 I left and to start QSS. That's how it has been, as I said to you, Ramesh, a remarkable journey from Industry Street of India to Rocky Mountain of Colorado to Rocky Shores of Chesapeake Bay.
You know what really amazes me, folks? 9 years, 94. This is year 2003. $225 million at the rate of 55,000% growth. Where did you get the money to do this?
In the business that I'm in, the investment is a mostly human investment, which means taking the risk, focus on the opportunities and the contracts. The money was a problem for me, so I have to go borrow the money. And getting a line of credit is a very difficult thing to do when you don't have any business and they want your firstborn and the bankers. And the bankers doesn't really care, to be honest with you, that you're working for the government business. They're mostly interested you have real estate and show them a picture so they can go back to their bosses and get the money. So it was difficult for me. But most of the things which really made the company so successful is me taking the risk, focusing on the opportunities, and satisfying our customer and our employee. They have been the pillars of the corporation. They're the one who made it happen.
How did your Valentine, your wife, help you in the business?
My wife provided me the moral support, and I remember 1994 when I just started my own company. At that time, I didn't have a health insurance, I didn't have a life insurance, and I went on my wife's insurance, and she was working for that time at Computer Sciences Corporation. Her moral support, her attitude, and what she has been able to work with me has been tremendous asset and a boost to me personally and to the corporation as well.
Well, folks, you know that the technology business is not dead in Washington. In fact, the Homeland Security, since it has moved in, are you going to be doing business with them?
I think that's a wonderful question, Ramesh, that you asked. Office of Homeland Security is it consists of basically several agencies in the United States government today. That includes the FBI, the Secret Service, the Coast Guard, as well as some other parts of the Department of Defense as well. And we are right now, as a matter of fact, in Coast Guard protecting the nation's coast. As a matter of fact, we have developed the software for the Coast Guard, and we have been working for the Coast Guard for many, many years. Our desire will be to capitalize on what we have done for the civilian agencies as well as for the Coast Guard to do some work for the Homeland Security. To me, that's a fascinating place to be there. There's going to be a lot of money there. Congress has allocated a lot of money. I'm pretty excited that I think it's going to be a great place to work.
There's so many people who are watching this show today. Many of them are young and ambitious. What would be your suggestion to them? I mean, what made you get where you are? What kind of risk did you take?
My suggestion to the people who just wants to start out, that take a risk, be focused, work hard, believe what you believe in it. And I believe very strongly, and that you will be very successful if you do the 4 things that I talked about it. That is what made me successful, made our company successful, and I would hope that everyone who takes the risk, willing to focus like a laser. You know, if it is a laser, you can even drill a hole in a diamond. And otherwise, it will be the sun that dissipates the energy because you lose the power if you do not focus. So that will be my suggestions and recommendation to the young people as well as to everyone who's going to be taking the risk. But one thing you should forget, where you came from and to serve the community that you live in. That's very, very important.
The greater community nowadays is very important for businessmen to give to the greater community. Yes. What areas do you see yourself?
Very good questions. As a matter of fact, the community outreach program is the top priority of my company as well as personally, that I have contributed thousands and thousands of dollars to the schools, to the space program, in Pasadena, California, as well as in Ohio. These children, they are the hope of tomorrow. And we must create an environment that allows our children to excel. And we must create the future scientists and engineers. And if we don't support our nation's space program, the science program, we will be a nation like other nations is, we would not be successful. And therefore, community outreach program and helping the children is the top priority of this company, and I hope anyone who starts the business and successful do the same.
Thank you so very much.
You're most welcome.
We shall be right back.
It just shows you, Ramesh, that technology in our town is not dead. Moving on, talking about the business world a little bit more, you know, the issue of sampling is gaining a lot of ground and attention in the legal field. What sampling is when people write a song, they might take another song and take a few bars of it and add it into their song. Now, you would think, hey, what's wrong with that, right? It's just a few bars.
There are only so many bars to go around.
That's true, but see, there's a little problem because there's intellectual property rights in that particular song that's being sampled. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is there is a very interesting case that just came to decision. A federal court in Los Angeles issued an injunction recently barring Dr. Dre, you might know, very well-known rap artist, from selling his song Addictive, unless and until he actually gives credit to Bappi Lahiri, who is apparently the one who produced this song. This song in question is a Lata Mangeshkar tune, a very old tune, and there was 4 minutes of that taken and put into the song Addictive. So what I think is really interesting about this is two things. One, it's talking about the issue of sampling and saying that every song, whether it's 4 minutes, a half hour, whatever, has a certain legal standing. The other thing that it says is that songs that are by artists who are not in the United States, artists who are in India, have the same legal standing. So I think it's a great decision. I hail, the federal court in Los Angeles, but I have a feeling the decision's going to be appealed, so I guess we'll stay tuned.
If Ralph Nader has anything to do with it, he would tell you that no United States patent laws be adopted by other countries.
Why is that?
He feels that it stifles competition. He said people are so scared to innovate because they don't know whatever they innovate, someone already has done parts of it.
Right.
And these parts are already patented. So how do you put a whole dish together without having some ingredients, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Ralph Nader, in the latest interview in the Wired magazine, says he does not like the American patent laws, the intelligent laws, be copied all over the world. Something new.
The other side of it, though, is frankly that if you don't give them an incentive to invent, then hey, why will they?
Now I have a story from Business 2.0, a real business story. It talks about how much money are people making. This is always an interesting thing. You always want to know how much your neighbor is making, how much your colleague is making. Well, let us give you a range of dollars within a particular field. In the software market, which is where so many immigrants are, the systems integration director makes $107,000 a year. And help desk analyst, $61,500. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
That is a lot of money. Of course, software developer makes $73,250. In the hardware arena, the senior engineering manager of the process development makes about $120,000, whereas a senior mechanical design engineer makes $75,000 plus. In the media business, the vice president of sales and marketing makes $181,000 plus. Creative director makes $116,000. Copywriter makes only $56,000. And if you are editor-in-chief, this was new to me. Editor-in-chief of a magazine only makes $83,000 plus.
Wow.
That's less money.
Yeah, I know.
They certainly don't give you the salary of a reporter, which I know ranges anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000. In the telephone business, the network architect makes $85,000, and the network control technician makes $45,000. What about in medical field? This is really important. An anesthesiologist makes $244,000. General surgeon makes $216,000. Now, I know that figure is not correct.
You know they make
Or
more
maybe-
than that?
Or maybe the immigrant surgeons make more than that. Because this is supposed to be an average, you know. A head of pharmacy is $99,000, almost $100,000. Now, my industry is construction, so I want to tell you how much money they make in construction. An architectural manager makes $77,000. Senior estimator makes $64,000. A construction management superintendent makes $59,000. And of course, a landscape architect makes $50,900. Though in the Washington area, we pay a lot more than that.
That's an average, I guess.
Yeah.
That's an average. You know, Ramesh, what's interesting about that is if you get some of these organizers, actually in the back, they will have a table which shows you, depending on how much money you make, how much you're actually worth per hour. And they deduct your taxes, they deduct all of this information so that you know when you're sitting there chatting on the phone how much you're spending per hour of your free time. So I think that's kind of interesting.
You're in the legal business, so I'm going to tell you how much a lawyer partner makes.
Okay.
A partner makes $569,000.
That's a lot of
And
money.
a first-year associate, $90,000. That still is a lot
I
of
know
money.
that's low. That must be across the nation because in the Washington area it's much higher.
It is really strange to see that you go through the same number of years in college, and somehow some people come up with better numbers than some others. I mean, I just don't understand it. A building architect
Yeah.
going through the same number of years makes $79,000, and a landscape architect, his classmate in most of the classes, makes $59,000. It's unfair.
I know. Well, I guess they say life isn't fair. I have to tell you, I said that I didn't like the Guru, but there was one line in the Guru which I really liked, which is Jimmy Mistry says, you know, you have to always dance to the beat of your heart. So, hey, money isn't everything. If you're dancing to the beat of your heart, I guess it doesn't matter, right?
The landscape architect has really got it great because he's smelling roses physically.
Ramesh, that's actually a really good point. You know, with all of this talk about salaries, how much people make, sort of seeing how you fit in with the Joneses, or as they say, the Sharmas, or what else you want to tag yourself by, the interesting thing that's happening these days is that couples are suffering. Marriages are suffering because everyone's after the buck. Everyone's trying to gain more money, more material goods. Interesting story actually out of the New York Times talking about the headline is "The Efficient Way Not to See Each Other." So the whole article is talking about how couples these days, especially those who are traveling, you know, some partner may be a consultant or the like, where you're traveling all the time, people don't talk to each other anymore. Forget speaking face-to-face, they don't even talk on the phone. Now email has taken over for the telephone and speaking face-to-face. So what they say is, of course, when your partner is out of town, you're doing that and talking about what are you having for dinner and how did your day go. But not only that, people are getting so used to speaking on email that even in the same household, there are examples of couples talking to each other on email. What would you like to eat? How are the kids doing? Can you believe that?
I can understand that. It's probably very good. You know, generally, bosses always used to find out you making personal phone calls.
Right.
But they can never tell whether you're doing personal email.
That's
And
true.
it is perfectly fine. In fact, you can have a running dialogue going on with 5 of your friends under the IM stuff. You know, I mean, lots of people are doing that. You know, of course, that's called cheating, but it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
For the couples, hey, you need to talk during the day. You know, what are you going to eat for dinner? You know, honey, what do I know? Cook anything you want. And you always tell me that, you know, and so on, back and forth, back and forth. It's kind of nice.
I guess that the alternative is that you're not talking. So if you're talking on email or text messaging, it's better than nothing, right?
Actually, when you come home, you feel like you've already spoken so much.
Let me just give you a tip. Those of you who are into this text messaging business, if you type 17 star 31707 star, that spells, if you turn it upside down, I love you. So keep that in mind. Send that every so often.
Too many numbers for us. I'd much rather do it with my eyes. Much faster, more efficient.
Talking about the eyes and traditional forms of romance, mehndi is something which today we talk about the fact that it's only being used in wedding ceremonies or, as a fun adornment, particularly for women. Do you know mehndi has a really long and storied history dating back to 7000 BC. Can you believe that?
You've done a great study of that subject.
Well, I did. I have to tell you, we were supposed to have folks, the Guinness Book of World Records holder for the person, his name is Ash Kumar, who actually does mehndi the fastest. He can do 134 armbands in 1 hour. Unfortunately, because of the snow, he wasn't able to come into our studio. But I'm going to tell you about mehndi nonetheless, because I found this absolutely fascinating. Like I said, 7000 BC, mehndi actually started to be used in Turkey. So here in the Middle East, can you believe it? We think it's all an Indian tradition. In fact, it dates back into lots of earlier civilizations. The Israelis used it, the Greeks used it, the Egyptians used it as far back as 1400 BC. India actually didn't start to use it until 1200 BC. Do you know it's being used in Thailand, in Nigeria, in Spain, in China, in Bosnia, in South Africa? I mean, this thing is a real phenomenon, and we're just seeing it now in the West, I think in the last 5 or 10 years, where these mehndi tattoos and the like are sort of gaining ground as a fad. But really, mehndi, henna, was really used because it was kind of a practical reason for it. You're out in the desert, it's really hot, and if you put mehndi on your body, you can tell immediately you feel a cooling sensation. So men used to use it as well. So it started off as a very practical reason for using this plant, and now it's turned out to be used in weddings, and men don't wear it anymore, but I mean, you can imagine that, it's got a real storied history.
This fellow, Ash Kumar, with the Guinness World of Record, I just wanted to tell you that I saw his work, his handiwork. Not only was he using henna, which is, everybody knows a green color, but he had yellows, blues, metallic green, metallic silver, metallic gold. I mean, he was combining stuff. Looked so fantastic. I couldn't believe it. Really, we missed a lot. The guy had to go back to London because that's where he's from. But he was here for a few days, and I want to tell you, that was the greatest mehndi artist I've ever seen.
Well, I have to tell you, this is kind of a funny little anecdote. A lot of women know that to really make your mehndi come out really dark and to have it last a long time, you want to constantly, put the sugar water with the lemon on it. Make sure, yes, you didn't know this. You're looking at me so surprised. All the women who know about mehndi know that. All night you leave it on. The longer you leave it on, it gets darker. Well, do you know the reason that brides actually want it to be as dark as possible? There's a practical reason for it because, of course, in the olden days, the bride used to go to her in-laws' side. And of course, you know what's waiting for her there. She's going to have to be doing a lot of work and chores. Well, the idea was as long as the mehndi stays on your hand, you are not supposed to do any work. So the bride had an incentive to make sure that stayed the darkest as possible. That's why you leave it on overnight. Interesting little tidbit.
This is a short story from Travel and Leisure. Tipping is a custom that many immigrants really don't understand it, because I remember going in India, you give 1 or 2 rupees extra to taxi driver regardless of your bill, which is 100 rupees or 200 rupees or 300 rupees. Well, it is not such a case in America. But when you're traveling, you have to be aware. In many, many countries, the tipping is already included. Many restaurants here, they don't trust you to take care of their waiters. So what they do is they put the service charge in there. So it's very important to check your bill that the tip is included. But just to tell you, in case you want to know how much to tip these days, 15% for waiter is very nice. They say $10 to the bellhop who takes your luggage from the hotel lobby all the way to your room. It's a good tip. I believe $10 is high, but hey, that's what they say, particularly if you have 1 or 2 suitcases. And many of us travel, And, you know, in travel, when you go, you get a sky cap at the airports, you know. $1 per bag is a pretty good measure. So with some of these things, and of course, you always have to use your common sense. If someone actually gave you more help, you do that, and someone doesn't, try and stop yourself from punishing them. Because sometimes it may
They're having
not
a
be
bad
their
day.
fault.
They're
Yeah.
having a bad day. They're
That's right.
overwhelmed. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And my last story actually is a very interesting